everybody, my name is James Davies and welcome to another episode of Photo Chat Vlog. So what we're looking at here are three pictures that I took with my Canon EOS 500N, which is also known as the Rebel G in the USA. And I also was using Kodak Portra 160 film, fresh film. That's a camera that I've had for about a year, and it's a nice semi-automatic 35mm SLR. So when thinking about the camera, the reason I bought it was about the right price. I think I paid £15 for it, which is just an astonishing amount of money, as in not a lot, for such an amazing piece of equipment. There may be better Canon EOS cameras, there may be better SLRs, and certainly at the time that it was actually produced, which I think is about, looking at the internet here, September 1996 until April 1999, you might have wanted to spend more or less money on different versions of the camera. But today, in the year 2017, and last year in 2016, to be able to get a piece of gear like this with a really nice zoom lens that just allows you to take great photographs for £15 is astonishing, so I had to have it. In fact, I don't know if I've talked about it on a previous vlog, but I have a lot of cameras, and when I first saw it in the shop I didn't think I ought to really get it because I'd got so many cameras and maybe somebody else would want it. So I did what I thought was reasonable, which was not buy it on the first day that I saw it. Instead, wait for a couple of days and go back to the shop, and since nobody had bought it after that, I did buy it that day. Anyway, the cool thing about the camera is you just drop the film in and it winds it all along for you, so that as you're taking pictures it's winding it back into the canister. What I like about this camera when I'm shooting with it is it's kind of quick, because it's got all the auto-focusing stuff going on and auto-metering, and it's got a very nice lens. Again, I'm sure there's better lenses you can put on it, more amazing lenses and stuff like that, but honestly, for £15, the fact that you can then buy professional grade 35mm film and stick it in this camera for £5 or £6 a roll, I mean, it's just such a luxury. It's like being able to buy a luxury car from 20 years ago. Perhaps I should buy a luxury car from 20 years ago. Anyway, I took this camera over to a trip to the USA last Christmas. We stayed in a cabin in the woods in a place called Hocking Hills, and so these pictures were taken in that cabin. And the cool thing about the cabin was it had this kind of atomic age, very kitsch decoration. So this first picture you can see here is of the Christmas tree that the hosts who owned the cabin had put up for us. Now this very reminiscent for me of growing up in the 1970s, when the trend was very much in vogue to have a Christmas tree that didn't shed pine needles. And they didn't bother making the Christmas tree look actually realistically like a Christmas tree. It was just made of tinsel. My family preferred a real Christmas tree that did shed pine needles, so we didn't have one of these. But you would see them. People would put their Christmas tree in the window of their house. So you're walking down the street, each house has a window for the main living room pointing out to the front, and people would proudly display their Christmas trees. And a lot of people had these tinsel Christmas trees where they were all made of plastic material. It was vaguely tree-shaped, and they had nice multicoloured lights and multicoloured Christmas decorations. So what I did with the camera was I got in nice and close. In fact, I'm fairly certain with this picture it was taken in the morning of our last day there. So I was wandering around the cabin whilst people were packing their bags and all that kind of stuff, and shooting bits and pieces in the time that we had while we were packing up to come back home. And there's just lots of interesting things to point the camera at on this tree. There was the white background, the rest of the room, the little coloured lights, and the dangly pendants. I haven't done any cropping or processing to this picture. I probably could have shot a more amazing thing, but I think I just wanted a picture of this Christmas tree. So this second picture uses real life things to predominantly make an abstract image, or at least that's my intention. So you can probably see from looking at it that we're actually looking at a wall on the left hand side, a window on the right hand side, and a net curtain with a pattern on it. And the interaction of these things creates this image. The reason I take pictures like this comes from my background as a fine artist. So I studied fine art at university, and one of the sort of spurs to creativity that we had was actually creating something in real life that would be the model for an abstract painting. I could spend a long time going into the philosophy or the definition of abstract painting and real life and so on. But if we go with the rough definition that an abstract painting doesn't represent reality, it's concern is more to do with the formal qualities of the support, such as the canvas or a wood panel or whatever you choose to paint on, and the paint, and what happens on the canvas between the artist and the support. If you take that as being abstract painting, you go and stand in front of the canvas with your paints, and you don't look at something and attempt to reproduce it. You don't look at an object in front of you, or a photograph or a drawing, and attempt to paint that. You go in front of the canvas and you let inspiration come to you, or you follow some sort of system, or something happens and you create your abstract painting. And people come look at it and they don't necessarily see a figurative representation of something. That's roughly my definition for this particular purpose of abstract painting. A complement to that would be figurative painting, where you have an object in the room. Let's say you have a person actually sitting down to have their portrait painted, and you stand in front of the canvas with your paints and you arrange them on the painting. Your painting practice is made up of your attempt to represent that person. And so obviously when you're studying painting for 3 years at university, or fine art indeed, it can be a bit of a drag if you're trying to learn what to do with paint on the canvas, but you don't want to paint somebody or a figurative painting, and you haven't really got any idea of what your abstract paintings are going to be about. So there was this concept one of the tutors suggested, was that you create a piece of work and then you paint that, and in your observation you can end up with, you don't have to think, wow, I'm doing a figurative painting, I must be true to the representation of this person or this bowl of fruit or whatever. You can concentrate on what your relationship between the canvas and the paint, and how you mix colours and how you do all that kind of stuff. But for reference, you're trying to paint, some cardboard that you've glued together into some interesting shapes, or a collection of stuff. And I'm trying to do that with this image. It is not predominantly about the wall or the window or the net curtains. It's about how they come together at that moment and how I chose to frame them with the camera. What was attractive was the colour of the wall. The pattern on the net curtain was very attractive, and the way it made shapes on the wall was attractive. But that's it. It's not, I could call it net curtain and it might root it more figuratively. I don't know what I'm actually going to call it, as I haven't put this on Flickr yet. That's what I'm trying to say about this picture. I'm not necessarily doing a picture about net curtains or walls. In fact, to look at it a different way, if this was a painting and we were talking about my painting, we might talk about the decision to have a horizontal element, a colour field on the left and a different colour field on the right, and the one on the left has this murky greeny blue, 2 shades of that, a darker and a light shade, and then on the colour field on the right has predominantly white with hints of blue, and there's a kind of a cross shape going on. It goes from right to left, but it sinks down diagonally. And what do these motifs mean, and why did I choose to do that with the paint? That's what I was trying to get at when I took this picture, that I'll let what's happening with the objects in this room, and indeed the structure of this room, I'll let the camera capture those, but with no intention of it being a recording. It's the wrong word, but it's what I'm going to choose. A recording of a moment in time, or an event, or anything like that. It may stimulate a lot of thoughts for people, or it may just seem like not worth looking at. I don't really mind. So we come to the final picture in this trio of images. If you follow me on Flickr or on Instagram, you may have seen these things already. So the cabin that we were staying in was next to a lake, and it had a screened porch to protect you from bugs and insects and so forth. And hanging in the screen were these little charms. I'm just going to call them charms, I suppose. I think their purpose is to do this. It is to hang in doorways or windows and screened areas, and to catch the light. They fit in very much with the kitsch theme of the cabin. You've got these cocktail type fruits. They've got a tropical feel. They've got these lovely gaudy colours, purple pineapples and green pineapples and purple slices of citrus fruit and so forth. And they hang, creating a vertical motif, which has some kind of echo in the verticality of the trees behind. And you then have the bright and sunny plastic hanging things, in contrast with the actual winter landscape of the lake that's in the background. And of course, with that being out of focus, that's very much muted and made into a more abstract concept. We also then have the actual filter of the screen. So not only is that background image out of focus, if you look in the top left hand part of the image, you can see how the screen is kind of pixelating it almost. The screen is obviously a mesh of horizontal and vertical wires, and they're doing something to that collection of naked winter branches and creating interesting patterns. So when I try and review this now, 9 months or so after the event, I'm pretty much certain that I took this knowing that I'd got some nice fresh colour film in my camera, and that the colours therefore of the hanging plastic elements, with the sunlight behind them, we were going to get something interesting. I have done a teeny bit of cropping on this, although the Canon EOS has a nice reliable SLR view through the lens. On reflection, just a little bit more on the left of the image originally, and I wanted to trim that out so that I could get the dangly things in the centre and the space either side of them a little bit more accurate. It's not pixel perfect, but it just stuck out to me as being slightly inharmonious. I just wanted, again, I would have been wandering around the house as we were all packing up and getting ready to go, snapping away, and thought I can compose an interesting shot. Again, that doesn't really say anything in a journalistic sense. It's not capturing a moment, although in telling you where I was and what time, again, it was about 11:30 in the morning, and what time of year it was, you can deduce that I was staying in a cabin in the woods in Ohio in the winter. But that's not primarily what it's meant to say. It's just meant to say these things were here, and in this moment they looked like this. So, 3 images, same camera, same film, same place. If you like the video, please give it a like, and if you like Photo Chat Vlog in general, why not subscribe to the channel?